We are live. We're, we're like little mannequins. Did it go on? Did it not? Welcome to the Lynn and Sheryl show. We will be right back after this, okay?
And we'll
Come
still
right
be
back.
live.
Yeah, we will. Welcome back. This is the Lynn and Sheryl show. I'm Lynn Serrano.
I'm Cheryl. And just going ahead and explaining this, it's time for the FedEx man and the two puppies are over here. So, and we are live. So if you hear it light up, enjoy my live.
We love that. That's what's so fun about the lives. You never know what's going to happen or what we're going to say on the fly.
And that's scary.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Can be scary. So, how are you, Sheryl?
I'm good. I really am. It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah. So, how'd you do for Thanksgiving?
Fattened up. No, we had most of the family over, and it was really nice. It's nice to see them in one spot.
Nice. Yeah, and before you know it, here comes Christmas. Right.
Well, I won't have as many here at Christmas. Sometimes I have to shuffle off different times. And that's what people my age a lot of times don't realize is these kids have other places to go. And you have to share. Do I like it? No. But you have to do it.
That sounds like life. I mean, you might not like it, but you still got to do it.
Maybe that's a good title one day.
Yeah, which brings me to the title and the topic. You sent me this topic. If you want to explain it, go right ahead.
Smell the flowers, blow out the candles. Something I heard a long time ago, and I heard it again a couple days ago. It's really funny. It was I was actually watching a TV show and it came up again, and I thought, oh my God, I had only heard that for years, but I've used it a lot. And I've probably overrun this too much. So once you asked me what to do, I saw it on there and it was like, this is cool. But it's that time of the year when we need to smell the flowers, blow out the candle.
And
it's called relaxing, and that's something we don't do this time of year.
yeah, it really is. We forget that actually breathing really can change just, and I mean, not that I think we do a lot of shallow breathing more so than the deep, take a deep breath, and it does help to take it, it pauses you, it centers you, it really helps you to reshift that mindset of we're always turned on to the negativity, and we got to realize that you have an option. You want good or bad.
When we were raising parents, I hope everybody gets the chance to raise theirs. I got to raise mine, Jerry's, all of them. But anyway, there's times, especially when you're raising elder people, that they get really perturbed, for lack of a better word. And a lot of times, the only way, and especially Jerry's stepmom had Alzheimer's, and a lot of times when she was out of her zone, if anybody out there knows what out of the zone and Alzheimer's is, to get her back in, we would smell the flowers, blow out the candles, and it would start calming her down. And so I use that a lot. A lot of times I don't think to breathe. I mean, you get to talking and the mouth runs, the air goes, and all of a sudden there's nothing left there to breathe. And so I've used that. I've used it with my children. I've used it with clients that were totally freaked out. You need to bring them back in, but you need to bring yourself back in a lot of times.
I think it's funny because it is easier to tell somebody to smell a rose than to take a deep breath. Isn't that funny? I mean, you're like, oh, smell this. And that's why I say it's great to have flowers around.
Yeah.
And so that makes so much sense, I had my godmother who she'd always like pick on me if I had my hand on my hip, and she'd slap my hand off my hip. Well, one day I saw her do it and I slapped her hand, going, "Get your hand off your hip." She goes, "There's nothing wrong with that." I said, "You slapped me. I couldn't do it." She goes, "Well, every time I told you to take your hand off your hip," she goes, "what you would do is you'd put all your weight on one foot
Mhm.
and you'd have bad posture." He goes, "But every time I took your hand away from your hip, you would stand up straight." I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense." So she just knew, instead of saying stand up straight, just hand off your hip, and I would just like, I'd be all attention. So,
Did kind of the same thing to my daughter. My daughter's 6 foot tall. And so that's hard for a girl a lot of times because all the guys are 5'8".
mhm,
And so as she got older, she was starting to hump over. Um, Not that her body was, but she was intentionally doing it. And I'd go back and put a little tap right up her spine, and she would stand up straight. And now that she's in her 50s, it's kind of like, I'm glad you did that. In fact,
yeah,
the children's dad was 3 inches shorter than my
yeah,
daughter. And so it's the little things, but a lot of times the words you say doesn't resonate as if you use a metaphor or something different.
yeah,
Um, and have them do little things, especially when they're in dementia and Alzheimer's or something like that, because they don't always understand or why you want them to breathe in. And then you
yeah,
have to go into an explanation. And and I don't know if I ever told them what I do. I just walk up and say, can you smell the flowers? And people automatically go,
yeah.
their answer's no.
They're trying.
They're trying. And it works well. You know what I mean?
Hi,
What's
Eric.
bedazzled pants?
That's just his signature thing to say. He's Mr. Bedazzle is what I consider Eric. Hi, Eric. Thanks for watching. But it is cool that to realize that if you want something done, sometimes being direct with some people, they don't get it, and yet something like smelling the flowers makes you pause to actually take a deep breath and see if you can smell. And I love that.
My, un-
And
my uncle also had epilepsy. And when he was coming out of the seizure, they're so stagnant at that point.
mhm,
And a lot of times everybody else is telling him to do this and do that. And I was not old. I was probably 12, 13, right along in that span. And I would say things to him, and the other people look at you like you had lost your ever loving
yeah,
mind. But he would react. He was reactive to something to do as
yeah,
opposed to a demand to do something.
yeah. Well, I think that people need to realize that sometimes you need to articulate things in different ways so that people can relate to it. Just we got all these different learning methods, whether that people are auditory or, you know, kinesthetic. I mean, it's just different things. So, I mean, I think that's a great thing to know, to tell somebody, instead of telling them breathe in and breathe out. I'm blowing out the candle. I don't know, when you start getting older. My birthday's around the corner. I don't know about blowing out candles. Like,
Well, you still got to blow the wind out. But the thing is, yeah, we're talking about it being for elder people or for whatever. But we need to realize, especially this time of year,
yeah.
that that's what people need to do. I think that's a lot of the problem with the world is the fact that we don't take those few moments just to take a breath in and a breath out. We're busy. And usually the problem is the only thing we're busy at is being busy.
It, it's the fact that we don't realize that if we are so used to just being automated and so fast at our muscle memory, we get to and from work, or we drive here or wherever, and we don't breathe. We don't do so many things. We do so much on autopilot. So actually, half the time you say, well, do you remember what color the light was, or the person on the street, or this or that? You don't remember half the details. You don't stop. You don't check your surroundings. You don't enjoy the moment. We're always the next holiday now. Everybody's rushing for what about, just being right now for right now because that's all we ever have is right now.
And another good time, Lynn, to use it is right before you decide you want to get into an argument.
Yeah. That's yeah, it's totally true. And we don't realize that once somebody's upset, it takes them 20 minutes
Mhm.
to get that out of their cycle. I mean, you might as well just shut up and let them talk because I guarantee if you look at the clock in 20 minutes, you ask them something when they're mad, even if it's right. I mean, you're like, is this black? And they'd go, no, it's not black. You know, ask them in 20 minutes. Yeah, that's black. Why are you asking me that? So, I mean, it really is, it's picking the times to do the right things at the right times.
I'm always, oh, well, I don't argue. I'll get even. Let's clarify that. But I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to argue. I have before in the past. It doesn't get me anywhere. So I gave it up.
Yeah.
I will base my point. And when I base my point, I will win. But I'm not going to stand there and do the ping pong back and forwards or do the texting fights that people get in. That is the most ridiculous thing that anybody can do.
Yeah. And again, I think it's really important for people to realize if you want something to be different, it's got to start with you. And you've got to hit. Why is it that like even couples they get into the same fights?
Oh,
Nothing changed. They're the same fight. Well, you remember you did this 10 years ago. The only thing that's changed is it's 10 years ago.
the good thing is you get older, you don't remember 10 years ago. But
Yeah.
it's instinctive. Flee or fight. Most people bury their feet and they start fighting, and then they say things that they wouldn't normally say, most of which didn't need to come to the surface.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to have a heated conversation, I'm going to use that word instead of argue. If I needed a heated conversation, I want to think about it a little while. I want to make sure that I'm not just throwing words out that are meant to hurt, and
Yeah.
that's what an argument usually is. You're trying to hurt the other person.
Yeah.
You're hurting them into believing like you do. And that just doesn't work.
No, I mean, all it does is it leaves a bad taste, a bad memory. And we keep forgetting that so many people, including ourselves, we have things that we regret. You can't change the back on, the time on regret. And when someone passes or something happens to them, you go back to that last memory. And do you really want it to be something that you regret? Was it worth it? No, half the time, half the arguments are not worth it.
That I wish I had not done.
Right, right. And
If
so,
you, if you wish it now, you shouldn't have done it then.
yeah. And I mean, just ask yourself, how right do you want to be? Do you want to be so right that you're all by yourself? Do you want to be so right that you left such a bad taste to hurt somebody else just so you could be right?
I
So,
think that's a lot of it. It's a lot of people feel validated if they win the argument. Personally, I'd rather win the war. The
yeah.
battles don't get you anywhere. Somewhere in the future, I want things to be right.
Mhm.
So if I lose enough battles, I'll never win the war.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's times to argue. There are. There's times when you're being hurt some way that you can't do it. But I have found going to the power of the pen is what I call it. Write it down.
Mm.
Write it down, and not text it. Write it
Yeah.
and read it a couple times. And if it's something you still need to say, give it to them.
Well, like I said, I've learned a long time ago being a peace officer. Anything you say can will be held against you. So,
Forever.
yeah, so instead of having things against you, consider, do you want that against you? Do you really want to have these things? And I think, like you said, I think it comes in time and age that just you realize what battles are worth fighting. So a lot of things are not worth fighting.
No, so
Just let it go.
stop, smell the flowers, blow out the candles because one day there's not going to be candles to blow.
That's right. Or smell flowers to smell for sure.
Yeah, it depends how many they throw on top of you, I guess.
I'd rather get flowers when somebody's alive, personally.
Yeah, I mean, that's. I think that's where a lot of people have their most regrets. I hear it after a funeral. I never sent them flowers when they were alive. I
Yeah.
never said anything nice to them. I never. Well, never's past. It's too late.
Yes.
And I'm the world's worst before I make this next comment. Pick up the phone, give somebody a call once in a while. I procrastinate more on that probably than anything else I do because there's always something else to do and something else to do. And then time passes.
Yeah. In a blink of an eye. In a blink of an eye. So, any final words before we get out of here?
No, just take the title today to heart. Try it. If it doesn't work, blame Lynn. If it if it works, I was the one that told you. But
Mr. Keats flowers. Oh, hey, James. So that's why the store keeps the flowers at the entrance. Yeah, yeah, you're right, James. They do. I'll see James on Friday. He's such a good guy. Such a good guy there. I appreciate him. But yeah, I blame Lynn. And I said she's my partner in crime. That was so cute.
you've got to have a balance here.
Yeah, and blame Lynn. She said that. I'm gonna have to make that a little meme. And blame Lynn.
Maybe we'll do that as a new show and blame Lynn.
You know what? We could have a show on that because I used to get blamed for a lot of stuff because I'm such a fall guy because most of the time I'm like, yeah, okay, and whatever, just to stop a fight. But then you realize, yeah, that's gonna be a topic for another show sometime.
Well, then my final thoughts for the day is if you want us to start a show named And Blame Lynn, just shoot it on over to us. And you can't cut that out, I know.
Oh, I love you, Sheryl. I appreciate you so much. I love this time with you. It means the world to me. Everyone, I just say, remember, like she said, smell the roses. I say roses instead of flowers. And blow out the candle or blow out some hot air. It doesn't matter. But do something different. If you want something different, you got to do something different. So why not try that? And so I appreciate you, Sheryl. I love you.
Love you too.
Blame Lynn. At that note, I'm out of here. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall